Mexican chorizo is a popular ingredient among many home chefs and a personal favorite of mine. Today I want to teach you all about Mexican chorizo, what it is, the different varieties, where you can buy it from, and even some recipes that you can make on your own. Plus, if you've never made chorizo, I'm going to give you a play-by-play on how to make chorizo right on your stovetop at home. First things first, we obviously have to start out by talking about what is chorizo. Simply put, chorizo is ground pork seasoned with various flavors and spices. Depending on the variety of chorizo that you buy, it's typically going to be seasoned with spices, vinegar, and most importantly, chili peppers. Now there's two main types of chorizo. One is a cured smoked chorizo, and this can be consumed without any cooking, and it's usually referred to as Spanish or European chorizo. The second kind is raw chorizo, and this needs to be cooked before it's eaten. This is generally referred to as Mexican or Latin American chorizo. Today's video is going to focus mostly on Mexican or Latin American chorizo. However, if you're interested in learning about more of the cured European style chorizo, I'll leave a link in the description below so you can read more on that. Traditionally, Mexican chorizo is made of ground pork. However, today you can also find some varieties using beef, chicken, or even tofu. Now, Mexican chorizo is known for being spicier than Spanish chorizo, and that comes from all of the chili peppers that are added in. Now, depending on the variety you get, it can be either spicy or mild. The spice is coming from the chili peppers, which can vary depending on the type of chili as well as the amount of chili that's put into each chorizo. Much of the chorizo made in the US is Tex-Mex style chorizo. Now, this chorizo is made with beef, sometimes even beef byproducts, lots of fat, and vinegar. You'll want to make sure when you're buying chorizo, especially in the US, that you're looking at the labels to see what is actually in that chorizo. Let me show you an example of one type of chorizo that actually has really good ingredients in there. Depending on the type of chorizo and the ingredients in there will obviously determine how the chorizo cooks up. Sometimes the trouble with Tex-Mex chorizo is that all of the fat and the beef byproducts can result in a greasy, crumbly mixture. You just have to be careful and make sure you know the right way to cook it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Now, the cool thing about chorizo is its rich history and the variety of chorizos that exist out there. Most countries and even some regions have their own type of chorizo, meaning that when you make chorizo, the flavor all comes down to the extra types of ingredients that you add to the pork. So let me give you some examples. As for chili peppers, there are hundreds of different options. Some popular ones include chipotle, guajillo, or even ancho chili peppers. As for spices, garlic, cumin, paprika, and coriander are some popular ones that are added to much of the chorizo. And then of course you have your vinegar and your pork. Most of the coloring of your chorizo comes from the different chili peppers that are added. However, occasionally there is a coloring called annatto that comes from a tropical fruit, and it's used to help color the chorizo. There's also a green variety of chorizo which comes from Toluca, Mexico, and this is made with tomatillos and cilantro rather than the traditional chili peppers and paprika. Now, I know this just touches the surface of everything about chorizo, so if you're still interested in learning more, I'm going to link an article below that I found that has all of the different types of chorizo and kind of gives you an overview of each one. It's super helpful and I geeked out over it, so I hope that you enjoy it too. Now, moving right along, let's talk about where you can buy chorizo. Chorizo is actually available in most local grocery stores in the US. However, if you can't find it, there are always options to purchase it online. Make sure that you're purchasing fresh chorizo, meaning that it's still raw and you can cook it on the stove. When you're buying chorizo, a lot of times it will come with a casing or some plastic around it. Make sure that you remove that before cooking the chorizo. We'll insert a picture of what you can expect chorizo to look like when you purchase it at the grocery store. If available, I would suggest purchasing your chorizo from a local international or Mexican supermarket. This will give you authentic versions of chorizo that you can purchase. Depending on where you're located in the country will determine what brands of chorizo are available to you. So some of my favorite common ones are El Mexicano, Supremo, and Chorizo de San Manuel. So I'll link a full list of brands that I like and that I've seen locally in my blog post in the description box below. And if all else fails and you can't find the chorizo that you're looking for, you could always try to make your own homemade chorizo. Isabel Eats has a delicious looking chorizo, and she gives you the exact instructions and the ingredients you'll need to be successful and make your own. Now let's chat about cooking your chorizo. The only tool you'll need is a non-stick frying pan or a cast iron skillet. Either of these should work, and you probably should already have this in your kitchen. If you don't, I'll link some of my favorites below, but this is a good tool to have that you'll use for many, many recipes to come. Both of these types of pans will help the chorizo not stick to the bottom and burn. Now, if you've never made chorizo before, it's a pretty quick process. It takes under 10 minutes to get your chorizo ready and cooked all the way through. Chorizo's cooked on the stovetop. Grab your pan and set your heat to medium-high. And from here, you'll remove the casing or the plastic from the outside of the chorizo and start breaking it up with either a spatula or a wooden spoon. Allow it to cook for around 6 to 9 minutes. And how you'll know it's done is the pork will start to get brown, just like any other traditional ground meat that you've probably made. Now sometimes, depending on the variety of chorizo, it can be hard to tell if it's cooked all the way through, which I know is a fear of a lot of people's. So some of the varieties which have a really, really red, dark color to it, it's hard to tell. So here's what you look for. The red of the chorizo will turn from a light red to a dark red, and the fat will begin to render out of the pork. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a clip of the original raw chorizo, and then here's what it looks like cooked. You can tell that there's a major color difference. Here's one of my favorite things about chorizo is there's such a variety of dishes that you can make with chorizo. If you're looking for a breakfast or an easy weeknight meal, or even want to have it for a fancy dinner party, we've got you covered. Chorizo can help you with all of those. I'll link some of my favorite chorizo-based recipes in the description box below. But some of my favorites include tacos. You can either do tacos for dinner or breakfast-style tacos. Papas, which are potatoes, and chorizo is a popular combination. You could also add it to your queso, which is one of my favorites. I love doing that. Or you could also use it in empanadas. You have hundreds of different recipes. If you go on Pinterest or search on Google, I guarantee you will find tons of recipes that use chorizo, and you will not be disappointed by any of those. A recap of everything we talked about today will of course be on my blog post on my website, homebodyeats.com. I'll link that below for you. And I hope that you learn more about chorizo and that you're inspired to try it. If you've never tried it in your kitchen, I hope that you will. Let me know what you think. If you already love chorizo and it's a staple in your household, tell me what you make with it. I'm super curious and I'm always looking for new recipes to try.